Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Resilient Rehab Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Effer, and today we're going to be talking about anterior pelvic tilts. I was asked a question by a therapist the other day just to start to understand some of these concepts of what an anterior pelvic tilt truly is, because I think there are a lot of preconceived notions of what they are, and they tend to be based on muscles. However, there's a lot more to that, and this is why standard hip flexor stretches and glute bridges and all these other corrective type strategies don't really last long term. They're not really effective. And the reason for that is because they're not appreciating some of the underlying characteristics of anterior pelvic tilts. And so when we're going to talk about an anterior pelvic tilt, and when I talk about this in my mentorship, I break it down into two different categories. We have a pelvic tilt and we've got a pelvic orientation. Now, the difference between a tilt and an orientation is a tilt happens within the pelvis. Essentially, if you want to think about what's happening within the pelvis, we've got our ilium or our innominate, and we've got our sacrum, and they move relative to each other. So when we've got this anterior pelvic tilt, we're thinking of a sacrum that is going to be pushed under. So think of like your tailbone being tucked under, and you've got your innominates, your wings that are going to be flaring out. And so essentially what you've got is you've got this open flowered position of the pelvis. So these innominates become more externally rotated, and the sit bone, or the sacrum, I should say, gets tucked underneath. And so when we have that kind of position, the pelvis essentially gets pushed forward from behind. Okay, so you got all this tension on the backside part of your pelvis that is pushing the pelvis forward, and that is going to cause this anterior pelvic tilt position. So these people are going to be missing internal rotation of the hips, and so what they do is they push their pelvis forward in order to achieve that. The difference between this type of anterior pelvic tilt and an anterior orientation is that an orientation could be a pelvis that is more internally rotated or externally rotated, and it's just being pushed from above. So commonly you'll see this being pushed in the lumbar spine, in the thoracolumbar junction or the TL junction. It really depends on certain structural differences between people. So you have some people who have a wider rib cage. Those people are going to be arching through L4, L5, S1, whereas people who have more of this narrower rib cage are going to be compensating by arching through the lower rib cage. So we've got this push behind coming from different areas. Anterior pelvic tilts coming from the lower part of the pelvis. Orientation is coming from above the pelvis. So when we start to break these things down, these people who have more of this anterior orientation, they're going to lose external rotation of the hips. And so sometimes you'll measure them and they've got excessive amount of internal rotation, or they've got very limited internal and external rotation. People who have this anterior pelvic tilt that happens within the pelvis, they may have hip external rotation, maybe an exaggerated amount, but no internal rotation. But a key thing to keep in mind is that we can't have one without the other. We can't have internal rotation without external. We can't have external without internal. So if we have one that is dropping off, something is moving too much in order to provide or to show that that hip is moving too much, right? So essentially, if I've got too much external rotation, maybe when I'm externally rotating the hip, the whole pelvis is moving. Same thing with internal. If I don't have any external rotation, but I've got a lot of internal rotation, almost like a hypermobility a lot, that's going to be happening from the spine. I'm going to be rotating excessively from above the pelvis. It's not happening within. And so it's important to understand that when I internally rotate and externally rotate, the pelvis is going to change its shape. It's going to change how it's positioned just to allow for that hip to be able to move. But if I'm missing one movement and I've got excessive amount of the other, then it's happening from somewhere else. So anterior pelvic tilts are not made the same. To get a great visualization of this, I actually did a YouTube video about anterior pelvic tilts. So you could check that out to get more of a visualization. And again, we talk so much about this in my Evolved Biomechanics mentorship because of how the assessment differences are going to manifest, and what we're going to do about it's going to be different. Now, we're going to talk a little bit right now about kind of some of the things that we may do about it. But if you want a deeper dive, again, you can check out the link in the show notes. But we're going to talk a little bit about some of the exercise strategies we may keep in mind or really start to think about when it comes to these things. Because I do get this question so much. And so that's why I want to record this, because it is just a great resource that when somebody asks me this question, I could just send them this resource just to make it a little bit easier to digest. Because when it comes to the body's obviously complex. And so this is not meant to be this cookie cutter approach where you see this anterior pelvic tilt and this is kind of like the step-by-step what you do. That's not the intention. The intention with this episode is to kind of show you some of the principles or understand some of the reasons why this happens so we can reverse engineer this. And this is a major concept that I really like doing, is I like thinking about the most extreme case. Think of your stiffest person you can think of. And that way, when we start to think about that person, we can start to backtrack on how they got that stiff, how that pelvis just dumped forward as much as it did. And here's the thing, if the pelvis keeps on dumping forward, something has to catch it. And that's when you get this sway back posture. Maybe that's for a different episode, but for now, let's focus on if we've got this anterior pelvic tilt, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to think about? And the first thing to think about is obviously assessing them, understanding, looking at their posture, seeing what's happening up and down the chain. Don't hyperfixate on the pelvis, because what's happening at the pelvis is also going to happen at the rib cage. So having this full view and this full understanding of this anterior pelvic tilt is a full body event, we can start to then incorporate upper body stuff and lower body stuff together in order to restore this rotation, in order to restore the position of the pelvis, because really the position is going to be a rotation. So with this anterior pelvic tilt, we got to think lower part of the pelvis and lower part of the rib cage, as well as the base of the neck, are going to be quite stiff. So we're also going to have knees that don't bend very well, because if they could bend and my hips could internally rotate, I'm not going to have an anterior pelvic tilt. Anterior pelvic tilt is a response to a lack of internal rotation. So everything's got to be pushed forward towards the toes. And this is a situation where you probably see people who have supinated feet. Okay, they probably have a rib flare. And so our main objective is to restore this hip internal rotation. We have to restore the shape of the pelvis. Think of the ilium or the hip bones as being opened up like a flower. We've got to close that flower. We got to close the innominate. We're going to bring them towards each other. So exercises I really like are my pelvic decompressor that it's in my posture program. That's a great one where we lay over top of a foam roller. We can rock back to front on top of the foam roller just to create this lateral compression of the pelvis, to give the body a constraint to tell it what kind of position I want it to get into. Another key aspect is getting the tag of your pants on the ground. You've probably heard me use this cue a lot because it's such a powerful cue to get that lower back on the ground without crunching or using too much muscle activity. Oftentimes the cue people will give is push your lower back into the ground, and that's just going to cause a crunch. That's not what we want. We want the muscles to be nice and relaxed. We want the abs to be relaxed so that the pelvic motion can happen with minimal tension. These people are going to try to use tension to move and tension to put themselves in these positions. We need them relaxed. So, got our pelvic decompressor. Maybe we get them on their back, put a towel, put a pad underneath the tag of their pants so the ground isn't as far. That's going to passively relax the pelvis because we're putting it in kind of this inverted position where the hips are above the head. That is then going to relax the tension around the pelvis. And then maybe I get them to push into the ground, really trying to find the inside part of their feet without their knees caving in. That's what also they'll do. They'll try to valgus their knees in order to create that position, right? So I've got this pelvic decompressor. I've got this hook lying position with my feet maybe on top of something elevated, right? I've got the pattern underneath my hips. I've got my feet on top of something. Maybe I'm holding on to cables. I really like this hook lying low cable reach where the cables are just pulling me. That's going to help bring my rib cage back, shift everything back towards my heels. So we want to shift the weight back towards our heels. We want to restore internal rotation. I also really like using squat position. So using maybe like a TRX squat, heels elevated to a box, maybe a goblet squat, double kettlebell front squat with the heels elevated to a box. Again, we're using our assessment to determine the depth. I like backwards walking exercises, so with a sled, with a cable. Even crossover exercises are great because it restores that internal rotation, right? And here's the key thing. Not everything has to be bilateral. What you'll see is even with an anterior pelvic tilt, you'll still see a rotation. Maybe one side's better than the other, and so we have to take that into account as well. When it comes to an anterior orientation, again, this is coming from a push from above the pelvis, and we have to treat it as so. A lot of these exercises are going to benefit for them as well. But the one thing to keep in mind is that you're going to see limitations or more limitations in their hip flexion, in their shoulder flexion, because of the fact that the pelvis is just being pushed from above. And it could be excessive limitation in the shoulder flexion because of these people who arch through the lower rib cage to push the pelvis forward. Or if we have this lower back pushing, then we're going to see a lot more stiffness happening at the pelvis. Maybe we see excessive motion above because they're going to be arching, and so their upper back is going to touch the ground, but their lower back isn't, and so that's going to give this false reading of shoulder flexion. So again, really understanding that maybe the rib cage is the driver, maybe the pelvis is the driver. Inverted activities are going to be great, but maybe they're prone inverted exercises instead of supine. Doing rolling exercises are going to be amazing. I really love the arm bar. It's a great exercise. Again, that pelvic decompressor is going to be awesome. Doing side-lying hip shifts, doing split squat variations, specifically front foot elevated. But again, that's going to determine on the amount of hip flexion you have, right? Doing backwards walking, doing cross body exercises, doing half kneeling positions. All of these are going to be great at restoring some of the positions and the movement of the pelvis. Now I'm talking really fast, and it's okay if you don't fully get it the first time. You can listen to this as many times, that's why I put it out. But again, also we talk a lot about it in my Evolved Biomechanics mentorship. But just to recap, anterior pelvic tilt happening within the pelvis. They're missing internal rotation, have better external rotation, probably have supinated feet. Anterior orientation can be either a externally rotated or an internally rotated pelvis. And that is going to have limitations in both internal and external. Sometimes you see an excessive internal rotation. That could happen from at the lower back, at the lower rib cage, and that could be a driver coming from the rib cage or coming from the lower back. These people oftentimes have really stiff, high arches, or they've got collapsed feet. This can happen on one or both sides. And so it's important to understand that we have to reverse engineer these things, understand why and how they've happened so that we can then create better strategies, more effective strategies. I hope that you can see that there are differences, and really understanding the differences is going to be super important. Understanding the biomechanical sequence of how things could happen is very important to creating the right program. And this isn't just about restoring posture, right? Posture is an indication of how the body can move. This is going to be not just exercise on the ground, but exercises you put in a strength program. You modify the strength program based on the person in front of you. So like I said, I really hope this helps answer any type of questions. Don't forget to comment below if you've got any further questions. I'm happy to do a part 2 of this. But as always, thank you so much. Don't forget to like, save, and subscribe, and I will see you next time.